This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. All right, so the Browns first preseason game, the Hall of Fame game happened. I want to go through some winners and losers of camp so far, who I think is in a good position, who I think it needs to show a little bit more. Before I do that, I want to tell everybody who wants to join the Fantasy Football League, do so now. At the end of this weekend or the start of next week, so Monday, I'm going to be sending out the formal invites for the Fantasy Football League. Unless you're a dog check tier member, you already got the invite. So after I do that, however many leagues is needed to fulfill everybody who wanted an invite at this time will be made. And if there are extra spots, there will be. I'll let you guys know, but there won't be more new leagues created because of that. So if you want to join and play fantasy football, do so, or at least let me know in the comments of the Patreon or the YouTube membership before the end of this weekend, because the invites will be sent out Monday, and once people accept those invites, those spots are gone. So just wanted to put that one out there. But let's talk about the winners and losers from the first week of camp so far. And I'm going to try to go back and forth here as much as possible, because I do think some of these are related to each other. We're going to start with my first winner. He's the most obvious winner because he's the most giant winner of all of the players on the roster, and that's Dawand Jones. One, he looks the part, right? Like, you see Dawand Jones and you think to yourself, man, that's how they would draw up a left tackle or right tackle in a cartoon. And I thought he played really well. I think there's enough to see there that you could feel fairly confident that if he had to step into a game, he could pass protect at an NFL level. The one thing I do worry about with him, and it did look like you were seeing with him in that game, was the run blocking. I still think he himself is finding his feet as a run blocker. Very often you'll just see him just grab somebody and just basically just hold him still, instead of like doing a pull or however they want to use him. If that works, that works. But also, you know, he needs to find his feet a little bit better so he could be a more dynamic tackle. But that's small potatoes for somebody drafted in the 4th round in their first week of NFL camp. So he looks tremendous. Luke Whippler is another guy I want to mention that I feel like is in the winner category. He looks like a real steal. And I thought he played better than Nick Harris. I thought that he probably looked the best from a pass blocking standpoint and a run blocking standpoint. The size is there. He looks like a 3rd round prospect that slipped to the 5th or 6th round for whatever reason. And that looks like it's going to be great. On the other hand of that, right, if Luke Whippler looks good and he looked better than Nick Harris, well, you kind of have to include Nick Harris in the loser category. Now, he didn't play bad. He actually played pretty decently, just didn't play as well as Whippler. And Nick Harris is at the end of his contract. He's in the last year of his deal. Luke Whippler has every advantage against him in a competition, right? He's younger, he's cheaper, he's under control for 3 more seasons after this one, where Nick Harris is not younger, he's not bigger, he's not more athletic, he's not under control for the next few years. His contract ends this year. So even if the play was even, Luke Whippler was always going to win out between the two of them, because he just has those things that I mentioned earlier that kind of give him the tiebreaker over Nick Harris, but he was just better. So that's a little bit of an issue for Nick Harris. Jumping back to the winners, James Hudson, I thought he put together a really solid night there at left tackle. And you should expect that. This is a guy who's seen like actual NFL starting snaps before, so it shouldn't be that much of a surprise. But it's nice to know with Hudson and with Dawand Jones that you do have some good depth there. And this is why I said that the depth that the Browns have at linemen is at O-line is just elite. They have great depth. You feel good about DeJuan Jones. You feel good about James Harrison. Hell, Michael Dunn got in there, played left tackle for a little bit, looked good too. So you feel good about all three of those guys playing tackle if they need to. And you have two decent tackles to start. One, a former All-Pro in Jack Conklin, and then Jed Wills, who's a former 10th overall pick. So you feel really good about the tackles. And you know that, hey, if something breaks, you got something there for it. I really wouldn't be worried about that position specifically. Honestly, I would be more worried about guard or anything like that because it's Joe Bitonio's age, Wyatt Taylor's inconsistency. But even then, it's not really a concern. It's just if I had to pick one, I guess that would be what I would pick. And overall, Bob Callahan. This team had a tough task of adjusting their run blocking schemes because most of the Browns' run stuff, as people have noticed, came out of 12 personnel, right? 2 tight ends on the field. Now that has to change. They have to figure out how to run out of 11 more often, whether that be in single shot, pistol, whatever. They have to figure out how to run out of 11, and they're figuring that out. And I think they were great at it. The run blocking in this Hall of Fame game all night, no matter who was on the field, was spectacular. And I actually didn't put any of the running backs in the winner or loser categories because when I look back at it, the running backs had very little to do with the run production in that game, which is tremendous. I think it was like 175 on 33 carries or something like that. But the run blocking had everything to do with that. Just tremendous pulls, tremendous leverage. These guys are just well coached. They know where to go. And at every level, somebody might get a quality player from the Cleveland Browns because they have to cut a good offensive lineman. That's how deep they are. They are playing excellent football there. I think the run blocking was tremendous. Pass blocking was tremendous. Look, we got a good look at DTR and we got a good look at Kellen Mond because they were protected all night. To the point to where I felt like, you know, in that kind of circumstances in a Hall of Fame game, you could have put the starting quarterback out there if you wanted to, right? If you want to throw Deshaun or Josh Dobbs, I think they would have been fine because that's how good the depth is on this offensive line that you feel comfortable throwing those guys out there in that situation. Now, regular game, no, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. But in this setting, sure. So that's all to do with Bob Callahan. Let's move on to another loser. Anthony Schwartz is a loser for the first week of camp, and it's unfortunate. He seems like the nicest guy in the world. He really just has had a series of unfortunate events in Cleveland, right? Like he gets blamed for the Baker Mayfield labrum injury, comes back, plays last year, doesn't play well at all. And then, you know, he also ends up being the blame for a lot of Deshaun Watson fiasco stuff before the 6 games because he dropped like 3 of the passes that Deshaun Watson had in that first preseason game last year. Then he gets to the preseason this year and he fumbles the first ball he gets. It's just not working out, is the best thing I could say about it. And I think time's ticking on Anthony Schwartz. David Bell is another wide receiver I want to talk about. I think he has not stepped up in the way that I would like him to step up. Had 19 snaps out there as a receiver where they threw the ball, and he really just did not do anything that stood out. He ran block well, but at some point I want to see David Bell make plays. And throughout the preseason last year, the regular season did last year, and now camp, I see Cedric Tillman making plays. I see Dalen Baldwin making plays. I see all of these other guys making plays, but very rarely am I seeing clips or highlights or in a game seeing David Bell make plays. So at some point, it has to start happening for him. On the flip side, I felt like DTR and Cedric Tillman on the offense, they had great nights. Obviously, we talked about DTR, my video recapping the game, talked about what DTR was able to do heavily. I thought he looked great. Cedric Tillman, I thought he looked great as well. I want to see him get some red zone stuff, right? So hopefully in the preseason, they get an opportunity to work some red zone stuff. I want to see how well he can kind of track a fade ball at its highest point and kind of attack it there, because the Browns really do need somebody who can attack a fade real well. And that's going to be Cedric Tillman's job. But everything looks pretty good out of him. It's nice to see him making plays. Same thing with DTR. These next guys are going to be on the defense and then 2 special teamers. So on the loser side of the defense, I have Maurice Hurst and Jordan Elliott. Now I'll talk about Maurice Hurst. He looked rusty, and to be fair to Maurice Hurst, this is his first game action since the preseason or since like 2021. So it's been a while for him. But what I saw wasn't the most encouraging, right? It didn't necessarily look like the guy from Michigan. It didn't necessarily look like the guy from the Raiders that I was excited about potentially him being. It looked like some of the stuff you saw in San Francisco, which wasn't the most impressive. So he looked a little rusty. I'm not going to go full bore off of one game with him. I'll let the preseason play out with him. But as of right now, it was underwhelming what I thought Maurice Hurst put out there. Jordan Elliott looked like Jordan Elliott, and that's not good. You know, I don't have much else to say about that. If Jordan Elliott can't look better than Jordan Elliott actually is when he's played starting snaps in the league for like 2 years in the Hall of Fame game, I don't know what to do with that. Like, Maurice Hurst at least has the excuse of he ain't played football in a long time. What is Jordan Elliott's excuse? He played football like last year. He was a starter. So, I mean, he can't look good in the Hall of Fame game, then when is it going to happen? I don't know. He's been consistently a sub 40 player on Pro Football Focus Pro Football Focus, and it don't look like that's changing. Let's switch to some winners on the defensive side of the ball. Cameron Mitchell, I thought looked good. Bubba Bolden, a safety prospect. Look, what was it? DeAnthony Bell last year? That was like the safety that came out of nowhere that looked good. Now it's Bubba Bolden. We'll see what happens with the rest of camp, but I did see good things out of that. Cam Mitchell really made some nice plays out the slot. Feel really good about his ability to contribute early with this team. And then my last winner on the team is Alex Wright, who I feel like flew under the radar, played a really solid game. I see his future being a 3-tech or a power end, right? I don't see him living out wide on the edge or being a true pass rusher. He's really somebody you want to have in rundowns because he's long and he's strong and he can play well like that. And I think they're moving towards using him like that. And I think that's going to be beneficial for him. Not saying he's going to be a dedicated defensive tackle, but he's going to be a big edge that you don't play like an edge. And I think he would be perfect to match up with somebody like an Okoronkwo, right? You put him on the inside, Okoronkwo on the outside. That way, Alex Wright doesn't have to worry about trying to be a pass rusher. So I think there's some uses for him in this defense. So one of the last losers I want to talk about from last night's game is Cade York. He missed the field goal. It's one field goal at the end of the day, right? I'm not going to cut him off the team because he missed one 50-yard field goal. The real thing that bugs you is if he misses like a 45-yard field goal or a 40-yard field goal. Missing a 50-yarder, like, yeah, it would be nice to have somebody who could hit those consistently. But as long as he's making the 40 and the extra points, we're good. And that's all I want to see out of Cade York. I did get nervous because it did seem like he got a little bit of the lemon booty on that extra point after he missed the field goal. And that stuff just can't happen, right? If you're going to get the lemon booty in the Hall of Fame game, I don't want to see you in the regular season. So that's a little bit of an issue. Hopefully he makes his kicks for the rest of the preseason. He's fine. I really just don't want to be worried about the kicker. Then let's talk about Bubba Ventrone. I felt like he was put in the loser category, and this can change because the punt return defense is still bad for whatever reason. Now, I know these are new guys, the Hall of Fame game, it's the preseason, but I think they let like 3 or 4 extended punt returns happen in one game. That's unacceptable. That's definitely a demerit on not a demerit, but that's definitely not a good look for Bubba Ventrone as this new special teams coordinator as he tries to step into that role. So whatever happened, hopefully they patch up, they fix so it doesn't happen for the rest of the preseason and the regular season. But this team struggled with punt return, kick return defense last year. They struggled heavily against the Jets in punt return, kick return defense. So they got to figure out what's going wrong there and how to fix that. Now that I got all the winners and losers out the way, if I had to give a game ball, so the winner the winner of winners would be the offensive line. I felt like that was the most impressive thing that I saw, me personally, in the Hall of Fame game. More impressive than anything else. I thought that offensive line play was really, really solid because it was good all 4 quarters. Like, at no point did it dip. That's great. The most concerning thing I saw in the game was the interior defensive line. Again, Jordan Elliott can't look decent against third stringers. That's a problem. Maurice Hurst, it looked a little bit more rusty than I anticipated, so maybe that's not going to be a good thing for him going forward. We'll see. And Siaki Ika, I thought Siaki Ika played well, but that's the only one I think played decent. So that's a little bit of a concern. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night.